Hey, what's going on? It's Frank here from Game Debate. No, we haven't made any videos in a long time, so I figured I'd start again with showing off some of our collections here. And what I'm showing here is my favorite beat 'em up series, which is called the Rushing Beat Trilogy. Now, the Rushing Beat Trilogy was released in North America, but under different names, and I'll be comparing them side by side as I have all six, the American as well as the Japanese counterpart. So let's start off with the first one. This is Rushing Beat, which was released in 1992. It's a beat 'em up like Final Fight style brawler. Pretty much any of those games like Double Dragon and stuff like that were like this. I got this one off eBay a while back. As you can see, the box is kind of beat up a little bit here, but other than that, it's fully intact. Can't complain. Back looks cool. Not quite sure what that says. And of course, on the front we see the protagonists, Rick Norton and Douglas Build, which for some reason looks like he has blonde hair and is white, when in the game he looks a little bit darker, but maybe just got a tan. As you can see, it's got the instruction booklet and everything. Pretty mint. Now you're probably wondering why I've gone out of my way to collect this series. I don't know, I just really like this game. And the reason I got both the US and Japanese versions of the game is because there's obvious differences. As you can see, the cartridge here is also quite mint. Not quite sure what the W's for on the back, but it's in Japanese, so I assume it belongs on there. And I do have a Japanese Super Famicom to play this on, so it's pretty neat. Now, the reason I collected them both, again, is because there's big differences between this and its American counterpart, and I'm going to show you side-by-side comparison here. This is the American version of Rushing Beat. It's called Rival Turf. As you can see, that doesn't look that looks somewhat like Rick Norton, at least on the cover, but that does not look like Douglas Build. First of all, these two guys look like teenagers. These guys look like guys who are at least in their late 20s and early 30s. And whatever not, so I don't know. The story was changed up a little bit, but it didn't differ that much from the Japanese version as far as I know. Of course, if I'm wrong, please correct me. So I'm going to put this one aside. So, why was it called Rival Turf? I don't know. I would like to actually know why in the US this game was named Rival Turf, as well as Canada. Now, it's an awesome street brawling game. It's pretty good. But I've always wanted to know why the name changed and whatnot, and as the trilogy goes on, you'll notice more stuff. Now, back in 1992 when both of these were released, this was released here. It was released in Japan first, and then it was translated, renamed, the enemies were renamed, the characters were renamed. From, instead of Douglas Build and Rick Norton, I believe he was called Uzi Nelson. For guys, Jack Flack or something like that, I believe was his name. Got the instruction booklet here as well, perfectly mint. And this is actually a U.S. copy. This is not This is not the Canadian copy, because otherwise it would have had to have had some French on there, which this one's obviously missing. Now, enemies were renamed. Stages were all there and the same. All the bosses were there. I can't tell much else of a difference. I'm not sure about the storylines or the endings, as I've never seen them dubbed, and as well as there's no real dialogue in the game. But it's still a good beat 'em up. Not as good, well, I would say about as good as Final Fight on the Super Nintendo, because Final Fight on the Super Nintendo was pretty bad, because there was a character missing, there were stages missing, etc., etc. So that kind of sucked. And that brings us to its sequel, which in Japan was released at the same time. And let me just make sure I got the name right here before all the fanboys rip my balls off. And that's Rushing Beat ran Fukusei Toshi, which was also released in 1992, which is interesting because this was a direct sequel to this, and it was released the same year. So I guess they had already planned a sequel for it right from the get-go or whatnot, or I don't know. As you can see, you got Douglas Build on here, as well as Rick Norton, as well as the two new characters, which in North America were Wendy and Lord J in North America. I don't remember exactly what the names... Oh, let me quickly look it up here, because... these games deserve proper translation. This is where the translation mishap started happening. Now, this one, instead of featuring, Instead of featuring 2 playable characters, it featured 5 playable characters, and that's Kazan, which was the ninja who was awesome, mind you, and had really, 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 really awesome moves for the time. So, in Japan, the characters were renamed in North America. Sorry, they were renamed in North America again. And again, they renamed them as Hack. They didn't even rename him Jack Flack in North America, but we'll get into that later. But as far as the game goes, this game is awesome. This is possibly my favorite 2-player beat-em-up of all time. Because there's so many characters. The game is intensively long for a Super Nintendo game, or sorry, Super Famicom game in this case. Now, as you can see here, the box is a little beaten up, but all in all, still in great condition. I love it. I know I'm getting a little mixed up here as to what I was doing. Even looks like it's got a price tag on it or something. So let's take it out of the box. I personally don't think this series gets enough credit, although they were phenomenal, and I don't understand why it wasn't better. Cartridge, I still got the original bag for it, instruction booklet as well, which is mint. And here you got the characters' names. That's Wendy Milan, she was a wrestler, and Kazan, who was a ninja, splits apart and shit. Lord J. So I always thought that his name was different in the Thing version, but it's the same. Lord J, he was some judo dude, really slow character, wasn't really good at all. Douglas Build, who was, he was pretty neat, but I don't know, it wasn't my bag. I still like Rick Norton and Kazan the best, because when you start the game, you can start off as you choose 2 players, and what you do for the rest of the game is you have to rescue your buddies. So I always chose Kazan and Norton, because they were all around, they're the better characters. All the other characters are pretty slow. When you do the combinations, they are easily interrupted, and I always enjoyed playing this version. And but of course, this was not the version that I played originally, and that would be, just put these aside here. And that would be, this is the North American release. Now, this was released in 1993 over here, a whole year later, so they weren't too kind to the idea that you had to basically release a sequel within the same year, because in North America they're not a fan of that. Well, I can understand that. Brawl Brothers is a sequel to the original Russian Beat game, but it was not marketed that way. This was treated as a separate game from Rival Turf, and you'll find that with the Russian Beat trilogy, as it was released in North America, it was not only not a sequel, but the big difference here between this and this is where they start translating the games wrong. They started treating the story differently. They changed the story. They changed... I don't believe they changed any of the stages. They changed the names of the characters again. I don't know why. As you can see on the cover, this looks like a combination of, Rick Norton and Douglas Build. But they weren't named that in this game. So, I don't have the insert here for it, so bear with me. It's the only thing I'm missing out of this collection. I actually got another cartridge of this somewhere, I don't know where, because I originally bought this from Blockbuster, used, but I had to get this one.